Meek was born in Gloucestershire in 1929. He moved to London in 1954, hoping to establish himself as a songwriter and music producer. Although unable to play a musical instrument or write notation, it did not take long for him to find success. His innovative use of electronic sounds and effects made him an iconic figure of the 1960s and a pioneer of space-age pop. His most famous work was a Tornado's 1962 smash hit Telstar, the first pop single by a UK artist to reach #1 in America, and said to have been Margaret Thatcher's favourite song. Meek set up his own studio at number 304 Holloway Road, in the 3 floors above what was then a leather goods shop. He was one of the first producers to grasp and fully exploit the potential of a modern recording studio. He developed sound effects like echo and tools such as dubbing. His aim was to produce perfect songs rather than gain commercial successes. Produced everything on the 3 floors of his studio and was never afraid to distort or manipulate the sound if it created the effect he was seeking. His landlord, who lived downstairs, were often unhappy with the amount of noise he made, but when they knocked a broom against the ceiling, Joe instead turned up the volume. In his studio at number 304 Holloway Road, Meek wrote and produced a number of successful recordings. He worked with the Kinks, with Lonnie Donegan, and with Tom Jones. His career was hampered by his hasty temper and strong musical likes and dislikes. He passed up the chance to work with then unknown David Bowie. He did not think the Beatles were any good, and when he heard Rod Stewart sing for the first time, Joe rushed into the studio, put his fingers in his ears and screamed until Stewart had left. Meek was obsessed with space exploration and spiritualism. He set up tape machines in cemeteries to communicate with the dead, hoping to make contact with his idol, Buddy Holly. He used drugs to excess and suffered from recurrent paranoia and depression. A rash homosexual, he had been fined for cottaging by the police and subsequently blackmailed. In January 1967, the police discovered a suitcase containing the mutilated body of a homosexual, Bernard Oliver. For some reason or other, Joe became concerned that he would be implicated in the murder investigation. By this time, his career was on the rocks. The hits had dried out, and although he had earned considerable royalties, he had spent them all on high living. It did not help that the French composer Jean Leroux had accused Joe of plagiarism, claiming that the tune of Telstar had been copied from one of his own musical scores. At this time, Meek sometimes lived with his musician boyfriend Heinz Burt. This individual had brought with him a single-barreled shotgun that he wanted to use to shoot birds while on tour, but Joe had taken it away from him and hidden it under his bed. Joe normally got on well with his landlady, Violet Shenton, who ran the leather goods shop at number 304 and lived in a small flat behind it. Although they quarrelled about Joe's lack of punctuality in paying the rent and his noisy parties and jam sessions, on the 3rd of February 1967, Joe's young assistant, Patrick Pink, saw that his unbalanced boss was burning paper and other materials in his studio. He called Violet Shenton, who tried to reason with Joe, but soon they were quarrelling angrily about his various demerits. In a furious rage, Joe went to get the shotgun and made use of it to shoot his landlady in the back, killing her instantly. He then reloaded and turned the gun on himself. Since the shotgun had been registered to Burt, he was questioned by the police before being eliminated from the inquiries. The plagiarism lawsuit was ruled in Joe's favour. Meek is today quite a cult figure in London's musical world. Nobody cares much about the landlady whose life he wantonly ended. She's quite forgotten. but the murder house at number 304 Holloway Road has a blue plaque celebrating Joe's life and work. With the French courts ruling in Joe's favour, his royalties were finally released, the modern equivalent of £3 million. During his time at 304 Holloway Road, Joe recorded over 600 tracks. He is revered as a pioneer in the field of popular music. His studio innovations revolutionised the way music was recorded throughout the world, and his legacy can still be heard in successful bands today.